Good morning, everybody. So happy everybody could make it here today. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of West Haverstraw Community Center. I'm Robert DeMillo. I'm the proud mayor of this beautiful village, and I think I know almost everybody here today. I'm going to go through a list of people I'm going to introduce. They've asked that we hold our applause till we're all done. No standing, no waving. What you do is your business. All right? We have with us today Paul Peperato, our Rockland County Clerk. Sorry, Paul, trying to make eye contact with you. Tony Earl, Majority Leader, Rockland County Legislature. Harriet Cornell, Rockland County Legislature. Jay Hood, Rockland County Legislature. Howard Phillips, the supervisor of our beautiful town. Howard. Jim Monahan, supervisor, town of Stony Point. Jim, nice to have you. Chris St. Lawrence, supervisor, town of Ramapo. Jen Laird White, mayor of the village of Nyack. Dr. Cliff Wood, the president of the beautiful university here in Rockland at RCC. Florence McHugh, secretary treasurer. Louis Bacani, president of Teamsters Local 456. Billy Ricardo, president CSEA Region 3. Frank Palin, business manager, Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 21. Daniel Caprara, business manager, CWA Local 1107. Our village justice, Kevin Russo. And my former mentor and mayor, John Raimondo. From the village of West Haverstraw, elected officials, we have Francis Nardi, our deputy mayor, Ramon Lopez, our trustee, Ralph Kerschkel, trustee, and Bob LeGros, trustee. The late great former governor, Mario Cuomo, once remarked, "We Democrats have a dream. We still believe in this nation's future." Like Mario Cuomo, I am a proud Italian-American Democrat, and I too believe in our future. That the future and the nation and the state as a whole depends on the strength of families. And the families of New York need our help, and they need it now. One way to support our families is to ensure every worker has the access to paid family leave. I support paid family leave, not only as the mayor of West Haverstraw, as a small business owner, I support paid family leave, and I plan on fighting for paid family leave. I want my employees to be able to support their families in times of need, and I think most New Yorkers also would want this to happen. That's why I'm fighting for paid family leave, and I'm proudly doing so. Our governor has a plan to make it happen. A 12-week proposed paid leave program that will be the most robust program nationwide. Now, please welcome one of our state lawmakers and our assemblyman, Ken Zabrowski.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to have you here today, and it's good to see so many Rocklanders and people from Westchester and across the state of New York here in beautiful West Haverstraw. Before I start, let me just announce some of my colleagues on the Assembly side that work with me, work with Governor Cuomo, and our colleagues on the Senate to get this done. We have, from Rockland County, Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe's here. We have Assemblywoman Shelley Mayer. Assemblyman James Skoufis, and Assemblyman David Buchwald. Thank you all for coming here today. You know, it's a pleasure to welcome Governor Cuomo here to West Haverstraw and to Haverstraw, and I think it's fitting that he's here because Haverstraw and West Haverstraw really have a long history of working men and women that built this county and built this country. You know, West Haverstraw, founded in 1883, was the site of the Garner Print Works, which for a long time employed many working-class men and women. And of course, the town of Haverstraw, which later today with Supervisor Phillips will celebrate our 400th anniversary of the founding of the town of Haverstraw, had the brickyards. At one time, the brickyards in the town of Haverstraw built about 2/3 of the buildings in New York City. And what that says is we're not just here today in a room talking about some abstract concept. We're talking about how do we provide for the working men and women of this state. And in the backdrop of the town of Haverstraw, the backdrop of the village of West Haverstraw, I think it's a great place to make our point that the working men and women of Rockland County, of New York State, deserve to have the ability to take care of their children, to take care of a sick relative. That's what this is about. And under the leadership of Governor Andrew Cuomo, we have a bill, we have a policy that can get that done. We're here to fight with him for an economy that works for all New Yorkers. Now, it's true that our economy here in New York has made many strides since the Great Recession. Working with Governor Cuomo and the legislature, we've created more private sector jobs. We have more private sector jobs here in the state of New York than we've ever had in our entire history. But that is something to applaud. But you know what? We always need to continue to work forward. And that's why we know that the truth is that the economy's working, but it's not necessarily working for everybody at all times. Today, the United States is virtually the only country in the planet, virtually the only developed country in the planet that doesn't offer paid family leave. We guaranteed some unpaid leave for workers, but that's, we all know, is a double-edged sword. You know, the reality is that working men and women can't choose between caring for a relative and a paycheck. And people that are living paycheck to paycheck have no ability to make that choice. That's why we're looking to make sure that working New Yorkers aren't decimating their savings accounts just to help take care of their family. So I'm proud to support Governor Cuomo's proposal for paid family leave. I think it's a smart, common sense policy that will benefit millions of people statewide, and it will show the nation again how New York will lead in creating an economy that works for all New Yorkers. So thank you, Governor Cuomo, for bringing us here today on this very important initiative. And it's my pleasure now to introduce my colleague, Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Good morning. Are we having a rally? Well, let's rally. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so proud to be here. We were down in New York City with the governor doing the same thing, fighting for paid family leave, fighting for New York's families, fighting to be the leader in our nation with this robust understanding that families work better when there's security, when you're not choosing between taking care of a loved one and a paycheck. We can do this. We can do this. We're fighting because we will change the lives of millions. We're fighting because we're all people who know that into our lives changes come and we have to stand with our loved ones. That's why we're fighting. And I'm here because I know if we stand together, we can get this done. The governor's fighting, the Senate Democrats are fighting, the Assembly fighting. So what do we have to do? We have to bring our Republican colleagues along. Our Republican colleagues are talking about family values. What better family value than paid family leave? Paid family leave. So what are we doing? We're fighting for paid family leave. And because each and every one of us know how important it is, it's a fight we can win, it's a fight we must win, and it's a fight that we will lead on. And speaking of leaders, I'm going to introduce a great leader. our wonderful Congresswoman, Nita Lowey.
Well, what a great, great day. What a great welcome for our great governor. Thank you all. Let's give yourselves a great big hand of applause. And I know that we have an extraordinary turnout because each and every person here understands how important it is to have a paid family leave. Thank you, Senator Stewart Cousins. Good morning to all who are gathered here today. It really is a great day in Rockland County. The sun is shining, and all of our citizens are out here ready to support paid family leave. I am thrilled to be here to support such an important cause here and around the country. There is no denying that the American workforce has changed, and women are playing a larger and more important role in virtually every industry that ever have before, and many are still supporting their families at home. But for many women today, taking time off to care for loved ones is a luxury that they can't afford. So what do we have to do? We must change this, and change this now. We must pass paid family leave and ensure that no New Yorker has to choose between paying the bills and caring for their families. And I love to see all these men shaking their head because they know how important this is. We must pass Governor Cuomo's proposal to ensure that working families have the financial security they deserve. I've known Governor Cuomo for many years. In fact, he was even a neighbor, lived around the corner. And I know that not only is he carrying on the legacy of his great father in fighting for working families, but I know that when this governor makes up his mind to do some good things for our community, he gets it done. So, let's give another great round of applause for the 56th governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It is a pleasure to be back. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It is all good. We're together. There's energy in the room. First, to Mayor D'Amelio, thank you very much for the help on organizing today. Thank you for remembering my father. Thank you for your passion and your support of this issue and the good job you're doing. Let's give the mayor a round of applause. We have to Ken Zabrowski, who is one of the bright stars in Albany. He's doing great work in his district, but he's doing great work all across the state. And talk about going back. We go back a long time, and I'm very proud to be with him. Let's give him a round of applause. Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who's leading the Democrats in the Senate and doing a great job. She's been an outspoken advocate for paid family leave for many, many years. She's been fighting the good fight, and she's now fighting with us all across the state to make it a reality. Let's give her a round of applause. To my colleagues from Albany, the Assembly and the Senate, Senator David Carlucci, who's here. Let's give him a round of applause. And to Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who is just such a champion. We came across that Tappan Zee Bridge coming from Westchester just now. And to see it rising from the river after decades of talking about that bridge. There was more conversation about that bridge. And now to see it actually happening. And it's happening because a lot of people worked very hard. But it would not have happened if it wasn't for Congressperson Nita Lowey, who brought the federal loan to the table to make it a reality. So let's give her a round of applause. Now, we do go back a long way, Congresswoman and myself. Before I was the governor, before she was the congressperson, we were just neighbors and just friends, so we could relate on a different basis. But she was working with my father, which meant she was over here and I was down here because he took her seriously. And she came over the house one day, and I was very much into cars at the time. I was like 18, 19, and I'm working on a car in the driveway. And Nita comes in, and she has to walk past me to go up to the house. And you know, Nita always gives you her opinion. You don't have to ask for it. You get the opinion. So Nita said, "What kind of car is that?" Now, this was my pride and joy, this car. This was a 1973 Pontiac Trans Am. Beautiful, with the bird on the hood, fire engine red. She said, "That looks like some kind of hot rod." Remember you called it a hot rod? Some kind of hot rod. "And what is that on the front?" I said, "That's the bird. That's the Trans Am bird." She said, "I've never heard of a bird on the hood of the car." "And what kind of color is that? What, are you going to a fire in that car? Are you a fire chief?" I said, "No, that's what they call flame red. It's the best Pontiac color." "Oh," she said, "you can't drive this car. It will cost your father the election." She tells me to drive it. I had such guilt about this car. Will it really cost him the election? That would be terrible. I wind up selling the car because I could never get this thought out of my head with Nita. So I'm sitting home a couple of weeks ago, watching one of these auctions on TV for classic muscle cars, okay? I'm watching the classic muscle car option. Up comes a 1973 Trans Am, flame red, with the bird. It may have been my love. $200,000 you cost me, Congresswoman, $200,000. I would have kept that car if it wasn't for you. $200,000 that car sold for. But what's $200,000 between friends? I know you meant you were coming from a good place. Let's give her another round of applause, Congresswoman Nita Lowey. And I also have a special guest and a special treat with me today, my daughter Mariah, who's here. Stand up, Mariah. She is a college student, Mariah, and she's home for a couple of days, so we've had a good couple of days. We actually had an interesting chat about this topic today. I asked Mariah, "Did you hear my State of the State by any chance?" Which I do in January. It's a big speech for me, even if it's not for my children. And I lay out the full agenda, and she said, "No, I didn't get a chance to hear your speech." You know how your parents used to say, "One day your kids are going to do to you, it's all going to come around." Well, they were right. I remember saying to my father once, he called me up and he said, what did you think of the state of the state? And I said, I didn't see it. He said, oh, well, thanks a lot. I said, well, those, it's not you. I said, those are just boring, listy speeches, I said. He said, boring, listy speeches, huh? Okay. And it all comes around. Now, Mariah doesn't listen to my state of the state. Neither do her sisters, by the way. They're a little more facile and loose with the truth. I asked one of them, I said, did you listen to the state of the state? Oh, yeah, I listened to it on the internet. I said, really? Did you like it? Oh, yeah, she said, very good. I said, you like that joke I started with? Yes, very fun. I said, I didn't start with a joke. So, we're talking about the state of the state, and she said, well, what was it basically about? And I said, it was basically about fairness. It was an hour-long speech listing a lot of programs and a lot of ways to get to one basic concept, which is fairness. And that's what the speech is about. Because you turn on the TV, you hear people talking about two issues as if they're disconnected. They talk about the new economy, and they talk about now voter anger in these elections. And they talk about them like they are two separate, disconnected situations. Really, they're the same thing. People are angry because in this new economy, they are being left behind. And it is a different relationship than we have had in the past. And this is not the American promise that we believed in. Now, Assemblyman Zabrowski said, created more private sector jobs in this state than ever before in history. That's true. We have more private sector jobs than ever before in history. And at one time, that was all you tried to do, was create jobs, because if you had jobs, you had opportunity, et cetera. But in this new economy, the jobs are different. And the jobs meant they're going to pay a decent wage, you're going to be able to take care of your family, and you're going to have the hope and the expectation that the next generation is going to do better than you did, because they're going to get more education and you're going to get them up this high and then they're going to go the rest. But in this new economy, that's not the case. There really has been a polarization like we've never seen before. They talk about the concentration of wealth in the richest Americans. That is true. Worst income inequality in history, period. They talk about the working man being left behind. And it is true. At one time, productivity and wage increase were basically one for one. The more productive the economy, the more money you were making for your employer, the more money you made. From 1950 to 1973, it was almost one for one. The productivity went up about 90%, and wages went up about 90%. Because the worker was more productive, they were generating more profits. Since 1973, productivity has gone up 70%, so the businesses are getting more. The salary has gone up 9%. So the businesses are making more money. The worker is doing what they have to do to be more productive. But they're not getting their fair share. And they know it. One time CEOs made 20 times what the average worker made. Now it's 300 times what the average worker makes. So the average worker isn't angry. First, he's depressed. Second, he's frustrated. Third, he's worried because these jobs don't even have the mobility anymore. It's not like you're going to work and then you're going to become this supervisor and then this supervisor and then this supervisor. You feel that you go from one nowhere job to the next nowhere job. And you have a whole segment of the workforce that doesn't have those high skills that are going to make the big salaries. And it's almost as if you're in the CEO's office or you're on the factory line. And if you're on the factory line, you're going to be there for life. And that lack of mobility, lack of opportunity, breach of the American promise, that's what's creating the anger. So what we say in this budget, we want to do two things. One, we want to raise the minimum wage. And second, we want paid family leave. On the minimum wage, it's very simple. We want to raise the minimum wage to $15. It's now about $9. And we want to phase it in over time to $15. Why? Because you can't live on $9 an hour. $18,000 for a family of four. Most minimum wage workers are not kids. There's 70% are over 25 years old. 50% are over 35 years old. These are not kids. They're supporting a family on a minimum wage job. $18,000, the average cost, housing, food, utilities, clothing in New York State, $30,000. The minimum wage doesn't do it. FDR, when he created the minimum wage, said this is supposed to provide a quote-unquote decent living. Decent living. Why? Because if you work full-time, you deserve the dignity and the respect of work. That's what it was. So he said a decent living. $15 an hour in New York, you can make $30,000, a decent living. You'll still have to struggle, you'll still have to penny pinch, but it is a decent lifestyle, and that's why we're working to raise the minimum wage. Now, the opponents will say two things. First, they'll say, oh, $15, that's high. Where did you get that? I'll tell you where I got that. If you took the minimum wage in the 1970s and just indexed it to inflation, which was fair, 1970s, index it to inflation, you come out to our proposal for $15 today. Second criticism is, oh, well, you're interfering in the private market. Baloney. Federal government sets a minimum wage, states set a minimum wage. We have for decades and decades and decades. This is not a new idea, setting the minimum wage. And when you want to talk about government interfering in the private market with minimum wage, listen to this. We just did a study on the fast food workers. McDonald's, Burger King pay the minimum wage. So they give the worker $18,000 a year. In this state, the worker still qualifies at that salary for government benefits, food stamps, welfare, et cetera. The taxpayers of this state give that worker another $7,000 in benefits. So they get paid $18,000 from McDonald's, they get $7,000 from the state of New York. We are subsidizing McDonald's at Burger King and every other minimum wage worker. It is absurd, just absurd. And the second point is, not only are the workers not getting paid what they did at one time, but there's a loss of respect and a loss of power in the relationship for the worker. They don't have the same relationship. They don't even have the same longevity. At one time, you could go to an employer and say, you know what, I have a problem at home, and could you work with me and give me a few weeks off because I have to take care of something? You have that conversation today, most employers would say, you need a few weeks off? God bless you, take a few weeks off. As a matter of fact, take all the time off you want because you don't have to come back. Workers are more treated as a commodity. They're replaceable. You can't be the sales clerk, I'll get another sales clerk, I'll train them for 2 weeks and they can do the job just as well. Paid family leave says, really, workers deserve a decent relationship because they want to work, but they also have a life and they have a family. And it's not all about working, it's about celebrating and being there for those special moments in life. That's what paid family leave is all about. Now, paid family leave says when there is a life crisis, positive or negative, by the way, the employee would have benefits for paid family leave. What's a life crisis? We lost my father last year, and we knew he was dying, and it was going to be a matter of weeks. And he was emotional and not scared, because if he was ever scared, he'd never let me know he was scared. But he knew that he was dying, and this was a very important time. And it was a time when I, as a son, should have been there with him, when my sisters as daughters should have been there with him. Well, what could you say that you haven't said? I talked to him 4 times a day for 56 years. You know, it wasn't even about that. It was just being there at that time. If it's just to hold a hand, if it's just to smile, if it's just to be in the room, just to show you care. There are a lot of people who don't even get to make that choice because they don't get paid, and they can't go in and take off a couple of weeks because they'll be out. Even if they get a couple of weeks unpaid, they can't pay the bills if they're not getting paid for a couple of weeks. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is a mother makes a child. The father wants to spend time. The mother wants to spend time with the child. Right now, you have to get back to work or you don't get paid. So 1 week, 2 weeks, women have to go back to work. They want to stay with the child. They'd like to spend more time with the child, but they need the money. This is an economy where 2 people work and they need both incomes. And the father would like to spend time and help the wife and bond with the child. But the same thing, you can't be there if you're not getting a paycheck. Our paid family leave is the most aggressive proposal in the country. It's 12 weeks. It is funded by employees who pay in to a fund about 70 cents a week. And that fund then is basically an insurance fund to pay other employees when they take paid family leave. You'll hear the opponents say, oh, it's going to cost business a lot of money. You know what it costs business? Nada. Scatta, niente, nulla. Nothing. It is fully paid by the employees into a fund, and that fund pays for the employees' family paid leave. The businesses will say, well, maybe I have to hire a replacement worker for that period of time. Hire a replacement worker. You're not paying the first person anyway, so you have the funds that you were paying that person to hire a replacement worker. There is no good argument against it. Not an economic argument, not a social argument, not a policy or pragmatic argument. We are one of only 2 countries that doesn't have some form of paid family leave program. Only Papua New Guinea and Suriname are the only 2 countries that don't do this. I mean, this is the United States of America, and we're missing a basic platform of humanity and decency and respect for family. You know, we hear on TV from all the presidential wannabes, family values, family values, family values. Well, you know what? To me, this is family values. Paid family leave. And look, these are not just New York issues. That's why the Congresswoman is here. These are issues that are nationwide. These are issues that our country is dealing with. Different states are trying to figure it out on their own. But New York has always had a special role among the states. I remember when I went down to Washington, I was in President Clinton's cabinet for 8 years. It was amazing to me how many of the housing laws, I was HUD Secretary, Housing and Urban Development Secretary, how many of the housing and urban development laws on the federal side were just copies of the state laws. New York always innovated. New York came up with the first idea, the best idea, and then other people copied, other people followed. It's our history, it's our legacy. We were first. We were the most sophisticated. We were the most complicated. The problems happened here first, so the solutions had to happen here first. New York has been the progressive capital of this nation for years. So we have to get these programs done for New York to help our people. They will both be national precedents. That $15 minimum wage would be the strongest in the country. The paid family leave would be the strongest in the country. And that is who we are, and that's what we represent. Yes, we stand up for working families. We do. We stand up for working families. We stand up for opportunity for all. We stand up for mobility for all. We want to see all progress because we believe the sweetest success is the shared success. And in New York, we don't just talk about it. We do it. We make it happen. The Congresswoman is right. Government is not about a passive art form. Government is about getting it done and making a difference in people's lives. You know how I view job of governor? I get paid to help people. Not to talk about helping people or plan about helping people or think about helping people or talk to other people about helping people. Actually help people get it done. We're going to get this done this session. In a few months, we're going to have a $15 minimum wage. And we're going to have paid family leave, and we'll raise that banner high, and we're going to do it with your help. Thank you, and God bless you.
Who's gonna work for the working man? Work for the working man. Get your hands in the dirt. Who's gonna work for the curse? Brother, I'll be damned if I don't raise a hand. Who's gonna work for the working man?
Right. So listen, in closing, I want to tell you how this happened. I get a phone call on Friday from Tom, one of the governor's aides, and he asked me about putting this together. Friday at 2 o'clock, I'm already thinking about what bottle of Cabernet I'm going to open up. So we come down to Village Hall, and the ladies help me out. And to everybody we invited, we attached the governor's plan. It's a simple read. It's a page long. That's all it is, okay? But as I get this phone call, being a Haverstraw Democrat, I know I got to call a couple people before I do anything else. So I call Howard Phillips, and I tell him the governor's coming, and I tell Howard, you're the first person I called. Well, I called Fred Miller up. Told him the governor was coming. I told Fred he was the first person I called. The truth of the matter is the first person I contacted was a person we didn't even acknowledge here today, is our elections commissioner, Kristen Savinsky. In closing, Governor, you mentioned that it was great to be back. We're happy to have you back. You're welcome in West Haverstraw anytime. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your day.